We are live, live, live. I am excited and it has been a while, so I need your help. I need you to like, share, and invite people to join in because I've been gone for about 6 weeks. So people may have forgotten about Thursday with Jamila, but I know my tribe has my back, and you all will like and share this post with people so that we can have a really informative and fun chat tonight. So like and share. I'm so excited to be back. I have absolutely missed y'all so much. Hi, Jonathan. I hope y'all are doing good. I'm so super excited. So excited. We know that for me, sharing is my therapy. Being able to dialogue and share and help people build bridges, build strategies. That is really my life's work, honestly. And so I'm super excited to be back. I want to open up, honestly, with a moment of transparency. I didn't just go off grid just for the sake of. I actually had to have a very major surgery. But I was adamant about not having it until after my birthday. So, with my doctor's approval, because they didn't want me to wait that long. I had my surgery on February 26th, and I have been going through my required recovery. And tomorrow I will be 6 weeks post-op, and I am super excited. But there have been so many lessons that I have learned just about myself and life in general through my recovery period. One of which was because I was so fixated on healing coming through a set portal, I prolonged experiencing the joy of healing. I was so fixated on God Himself coming down and doing a miraculous work that I was negating the opportunity for God to use His people to serve in the healing process. And for me, it was an incredibly humbling experience, because to know me is to know that I can be one who is very independent, one who is very adamant about getting it done because I have to, and not affording people who can help me do their part. And the lesson in that is sometimes someone else's ministry is fulfilled when they are allowed to be a help to you. Catch that. We sometimes give people, or we don't give people, the advantage that they need to fulfill their purpose in your life when you don't allow them to be the helper that God has sent them to be to you. Ooh, that wasn't even on notes. So thank you, Jesus. And it's just a continual eye-opening experience for me. I had to have 10, and I did say 10, fibroids removed on February 26th. I was in immense pain. I prolonged getting intervention for years, you guys, almost a decade actually, up until the early part of October in 2020, where the pain had become so severe that I was unable to walk. I was waking up out of my sleep feeling like someone was stabbing me. My husband and my son were so concerned, and I was just like, I can muscle through it. I can get through it. I'm fine. And I wasn't fine, but I was so determined to have my healing come by the way I wanted instead of the way God had planned all along. And a part of me felt like if I were to go and have medical intervention, that I would no longer be deemed a woman of faith because my faith had latched on to this ideology of healing that wasn't appropriate for me. And so the lesson in that is for those of us who have sometimes or oftentimes decided that this is how it has to be, and we are not willing to relinquish that and allow it to be what it is, I advise you to open your hands, because you are prolonging and you are preventing yourself from experiencing what is actually meant to be for you in particular. I've got another 6 weeks ahead of me until they say that I am fully recovered, but I thank God that I have reached my 6 weeks and I'm able to walk. Let me tell you something, this surgery humbled me in more ways than I can imagine. I wasn't able to sit up by myself. I had to depend on my husband to clothe me. I had to have people feed me. I had to be broken. I had to be broken and just allow the people who are assigned to me to be God's gift to me. So I am just excited to be back. And I felt like it was important to share that because I know that that's the story for a lot of people. You may not have a medical condition, maybe that fits that ideology, but there's something in your life that you may need to go back and reevaluate and allow it to be what it is meant to be so that you can experience the fruit of what it is. So for tonight's topic, we are talking about why we wonder. And I have been going through this for a while now, and I can't seem to shake the notion of wonder. And I wanted to really dispel the myth of wonder. Most times when you hear it, it has this negative connotation to it, and I want to look at it from a different vantage point. So when we talk about what is considered to be a norm, to know me is to know I am a woman of definition. We do not learn, nor can we apply any information given until we understand it in its totality. So if this is your first time being on Thursday with Jamila, welcome. One of the things that we always tell the tribe is make sure that you have your pens and your journals handy, because we have some definitions and applications that we are going to scribe, and then I'm going to leave you with a journal prompt for you to ponder on. So the first definition that I want to look at is norm. And when we classify something as a norm, it is considered to be an average level of development or achievement. It is a behavior that is considered to be usual or expected. Okay, so a norm, average level of development, something that is expected or is deemed usual. When we are looking at the word wander, it implies an absence or an indifference to a fixed course. When we look at the word deviation, it means that we are deviating from a norm. And this is especially true for people who are marked differently from a group. One who is set apart, one who has a significant or a noticeable difference about them amongst the group. Those who deviate are people who are noticeably and significantly different from the group that they are associated with. What's the title? Why We Wonder. And I think I probably have some wanderers on the line looking to self-identify in a way that doesn't have a negative undertone. And I want to dismantle this ideology that because you have unsubscribed to what no longer resembles who you have grown into does not make you lost. It means that you're one who is noticeably and significantly different from what you once ascribed to. Okay. Innovation is the last definition that I want us to jot down. And innovation is a new idea, a method, or a device. It is the introduction of something new. Okay. So why do we wonder? Simply put, it's absolutely impossible to embark on something new when you are adhering to a set of expectations that have a defined outcome. When you are subscribing to a traditional or an expected ideology, tradition, what have you, it is very much impossible to create something outside the box or outside of the parameters of what that norm is unless you wonder, unless you deviate, unless you come off the beaten path and blaze a new trail. Now, norms don't require us to reach past what's being presented to us. When we ascribe to a norm, we are committing to that training track, that level of development. We are committing and submitting our beings to that. So we don't actually have to, honestly, think of another way to get it done when we say we accept this as your absolute. When we say this is it, there is nothing beyond this. Great. I don't actually have to use my brain. I don't have to unlock the creativity that I have inside of me when I subscribe to what's already been fixed and what already has been predetermined by the status quo, if you will. Outcomes have been predetermined and they've been pre-charted when you subscribe to a norm. And listen, don't get me wrong. Prearranged courses have their benefits, and they can be beneficial, right? Because if this is truly what I want to be, and I'm not coming on here to be a traditionalist basher or to bash people who stick to what they trust in. By no means. But what I am saying is that's not everybody's way, and people who don't go or maneuver in this way should not be deemed as people who have what is the word I want to use? I don't want them to be deemed as people who are rebels or people who lack discipline, because that's not the case. Those who decide that, you know what, I think there's another way to get to point B and I'm going to try this, are brave people. They're people who have decided that I know that there's something within me that I can gravitate and hold on to help me reach the expected end for me, not the predetermined expected end that they say I must commit to. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's give a practical example. Practical example would be our GPS systems, right? So some of us use Google Maps, some of us use Apple Maps, whatever you choose, right? Typically a GPS system is getting a satellite, why can't I talk tonight? A satellite ping on, determining where you are and pre-scripted routes to get you to where you're trying to go, right? And they typically use your common freeways, your common bypasses. It's typically the way most people get to where you're trying to go. But then there's this cool little app called Waze, right? And Waze introduces you to back streets in your neighborhood that you probably didn't know were there. It takes you on a scenic route, but Waze has a tendency to find the shortcuts, expose you to new things, and get you there ahead of time. Most times when you use Waze, right, that's what they pride themselves on. They pride themselves on their ability to allegedly cut the corners, if you will, expose you to something that you probably would have never seen before had you not gone this way. But we expect you to get there ahead of time. I don't know why when I was writing that analogy that it preached to me, but I'm just saying, like, you mean to tell me I'm going to get exposure to something that I hadn't seen before. I'm going to get there before the anticipated time, and I'm still going to get introduced to something new? You can't typically experience that when you stay on a fixed course. On a fixed course, you know what exit is coming up. You know which lanes move at a certain rate. You move into this autopilot. You put your life on autopilot and you just wholeheartedly subscribe, no longer really having to use your brain to get from point A to point B. And so my innovators and my wanderers, if you will, struggle with that, because as a creative, your mind is always looking for a more efficient way or a new way to get a desired outcome. We do not sit and say, okay, every day we're doing this, just like this, every single day from 8 to 5, and then I'm going home. The redundancy starts to dilute us and makes us start to feel as if I'm not showing up for my life. I'm just doing what's expected. There's really little to no fulfillment. I want off the bus. I want to get out of this. I feel like I'm stuck in a rut. I don't want to do this anymore. But just because I'm saying I don't want to do this doesn't mean that I don't want to be held accountable, but I just don't want to be held accountable to what will not foster who I am growing into and ultimately becoming. Does that make sense? Most of us want to have a level of accountability. We just want to be held to an accountable, or we want to be held accountable to someone who fully sees us and has the capacity to groom and grow us. That's what wanderers are looking for. They're looking for an environment and or person that is capable and has the depth and the width to groom and grow them into their entire being. They don't want to stay fixated in an environment that only ministers, speaks to, or develops one portion of who they are. When you make them do that, they are going to become frustrated because they know there's more in me. I just know I'm in a place that cannot cultivate it. That makes sense? Whether it's business, professional, whatever. I am a strategist. I work in professional arenas where my goal is always to help my clients get from where they are to where they want to be, sometimes using unconventional means to get there. And you have to be willing to do something different to get a different outcome or a desired outcome. It may be I want to get the same outcome that they received, but I just know that I'm not going to do it their way. Good for you. Way to brave the waters. Salute. You have my endorsement because I'm that person. Tell me what point A is and what your desired outcome is, and then give me the liberty to create it based on what I've probably learned or studied about your culture and or environment. Okay? So when we wanderers decide, I'm out, we have we are exposed to this concept of discovery, and really the power of discovery is only attained by people who are brave enough to face the unknown head on. Those of us who will say, look, I know there's something on the other side of this. I don't know what it is, but something in me won't allow me to stay stuck and in wondering, what if I were brave enough to take the first step? What if I had enough? What if? No. There's something in me that says you can, so I am. There's something in me that says you are capable, so I'm going for it. There's something that rises up in me and begins to agitate me, even if it's just a subtle cue that says we're not staying here. We have reached our expiration and we're moving. And it is no way a slight to the environment that we were once in, because that environment did something for us. It helped us get to a place of awakening to where we are now. And so we have to honor the environment that we were once in while moving on to the next. Hear me when I say that, because I am never going to get here and say, oh, you can write it off. It didn't matter. It absolutely matters, because we are the sum total of every experience that we submitted ourselves to. So that environment that you were in did something for you. It cultivated you to this point, but now it no longer serves you. So I'm on the cusp of the next thing and I'm excited about it, but I am going to be submitted. Hear me when I say that. Okay, we will not be rebels and we will not be unsubmitted foes hoping for the best possible outcome. Okay. We won't do that in this season. We will be submitted, okay? Because every innovator, every wanderer, every trailblazer, every trendsetter, whatever it is that you're calling yourself, you ascribe to someone who's further along than you. You have to, because people who are further along than you, even if you are not walking the exact pattern, those who are further along than you have cues and tools that they can provide you with to help you avoid some of the pitfalls that they experienced. Okay, a wanderer simply deviates from the path, but they are not wayward and they are not unsubmitted. I know I keep saying that, but I just want to make sure that point makes it really hits home for us. Okay, so some of the key points that I want to go over tonight is going back to our definitions, because this is, again, I'm a teacher and I got to talk about, we got to apply what we're talking about. And then we've got to understand it, and then we've got to be able to apply it. So when we're talking about wandering, it says what? It implies the absence of or an indifference to a fixed course. Okay. Wondering to people who haven't become brave enough to do it looks like aimless ambition. People who are like, yeah, I would never do that, or oh, they're out there deep. I hope somebody catch them. To the person whose perception is limited of what can be accomplished when we're brave enough to go on a journey of self-discovery. When they're not there, you just look like you have an aimless ambition. And it's because it's hard for them to unsubscribe to what they've deemed as an absolute. Okay. And this can happen in a myriad of ways. So you just have to be cognizant of who you are around when you decide to wonder, because those voices can cause you to start questioning what you know you should be doing and the direction in which you should be going, because they can't see it from your vantage point. They can't see it from your perspective. Okay. And so listen, wonder again is another point about it. It is a second or a subsequent choice. Did you hear me? It is a second or a subsequent choice between two paths, i.e. an alternative. What is happening with my speech today? Woo! It is considered to be an alternate route. Okay? Even an alternate route gets you to the desired outcome. Wondering requires commitment and accountability. Wondering is not an excuse to avoid the finish line, but it uses a different vehicle to get us there. It doesn't say that I have altogether decided that I'm going to get off the path of my purpose. Okay. So I have to have some illustration. So, I mean, the finish line is the finish line on the track, right? We're not deciding, oh, I'm no longer running the race, I'm going to make something else my finish line. No, the goal line is the goal line. I'm just maybe going to go a different way to get there. But ultimately, I'm going to get to the finish line. And something is pushing me a bit to lean into that, because I know in the day and era that we live in, so many of us have set these expectations on how and when we're supposed to get somewhere, that we start beating ourselves up when we can't check the boxes on what we have determined to be our timeline. Let me tell you something. I'm telling you, this recovery and this surgery has been a blessing in disguise for me in so many ways, because I had set courses and I had check boxes and things that I wanted to happen by certain dates and ages in my life. Okay. But that wasn't the predetermined course for my life. And when I say predetermined, I mean the pages that God wrote in my book of life before I even lived a single one of them out. I'm not talking about a predetermined expectation by society's standards. Okay? I'm talking about me subscribe. Okay, y'all, I get a little emotional about that, because I think so many of us, because we haven't met a societal expectation, or a religious expectation, we feel like we are deemed unworthy or inadequate. And I want to speak to that person in you, and I want you to say, hey, look yourself in the mirror. Hey, you are everything that you were already determined to be before you got here, and your course of action is specific to you. And when you feel that there is a restriction happening, and when you feel that you have subscribed to a society and an environment that is not capable of cultivating you as an entire being, you have the right to unsubscribe. You have the right to wander away from, so that you can wander into the real you. Woo! You get to decide that, and you get to revel in that, because oh, the joy that comes on the other side of you walking out your truth. Oh, the joy. Oh, the joy. Let me go back to my notes, because I got some more for y'all. but I'm excited, and I've been away for a while, so more than likely we're going over 30 minutes. It's happening. Norms, again, they are considered an average level of development. Okay, now if average is what you want, go for it. I grew up in a house where a C, which is deemed an average or a standard, wasn't acceptable. I grew up in a household where I was told that you get to be the exception. I grew up in a household where it said that you are capable and you will exceed standard expectations. So I apply that across the board when it comes to how I walk out this life. So I'm not okay with status quo. I'm not okay with being boxed in. I'm not okay with being underdeveloped. So when I peace out, it's because I've hit the ceiling of this environment's capacity for me. And I appreciate you for getting me to this place, but now it's time for me to graduate to the next thing. I mean, just think about it, guys. We go from daycare to pre-K to elementary to middle school to high school to secondary levels of education. Why isn't the same true when it comes to how we have to wander through our lives? I think people want to be offended when you decide that you have graduated and you've proven that you graduated from what this environment has to offer. And so now I'm going to the next place in which I have proven to be eligible to participate in. Come on, guys. Like, you get to decide. All right. We have graduated from 5th grade. We're going to stay in elementary. We just not gonna go to middle school. We just gonna stay here, and just remain underdeveloped and frustrated. Like the kids who are in classes that they shouldn't be in because they have an intellectual capacity above what that particular class can offer them. So what? They start becoming fidgety. They call them disruptors. All that. No. You don't have what I need. Therefore, when you give me an assignment, I finish it and I'm left trying to find something else to do because I don't want to be idle. Come on, guys. Like, you get to graduate. And if you're waiting on somebody to affirm your next level, this is where the wanderer has to be held accountable to a mentor or a spiritual advisor that actually can speak to the next level in you. And not only speak to it, they speak to it, affirm it, and then they help cultivate it. And they don't let you fall. Because when you are embarking on the next level, this is something that you have not experienced before. Yes, or they say you have ADHD. Been there, done that. When you have graduated from a particular course, if you will, you are going to embark in a new environment. And you don't know that environment, okay? So you're going to stumble, you're going to trip, you're going to fall, but you're going to get back up, okay? And that advisor is going to be there, and they are committed to the totality of your development while you're in their care. Your advisor, your mentor is committed to the totality of the development that they have been entrusted with. Thus, they don't leave. Listen, I can advise and I can mentor to a certain degree, but then you have to go to somebody who's above me. And I'm not offended by that. I'm happy that you have grown and now are ready to move on to the next phase. And so if you are subscribing to people who have their foot on your neck, I pray to God that you wake up and see the truth of who you are and you're brave enough to walk away. You say thank you for what they offered you, but you are brave enough to say it's time for me to go. Okay? I don't understand why I have all the tears. I have all the tears tonight, guys. Whoa. Okay. So during just kind of like my meditation today, I went back and I was listening to one of my favorite messages by Darius Daniels from his Water Walker series. And he gave a couple life quotes to people of exception. And so if this is applicable to you, I want you to maybe jot this down. If you can't write it fast enough, come back and watch the replay and jot it down. But this is something that I really want you to speak over yourself. And people of exception say this: what happens to them does not dictate and determine what happens to me. What happens to them does not dictate or determine what happens to me. It's not an arrogant or braggadocious statement. It is, I know who you are. I'm just not that. And so I'm no disrespect to who you are. It's just not who I am. So with that, what you're experiencing doesn't necessarily determine, not necessarily, does not. That's an emphatic statement. It does not dictate what's going to happen with me. Another life statement that people of exception should be saying is, I will not allow what is normal for other people to define me, imprison me, or inhibit me from being all that I can become. Let me say that one more time. I will not allow what is normal for other people to define me, imprison me, or inhibit me from being all that I can become. That's a hard one sometimes, especially when those are the people who have been your crutches, and they're the people whose words that you've subscribed to so much so that you don't listen to the sound of your own voice. It's hard. It is hard when you have relied so heavily on people to speak to you that you stop listening to yourself. So they are defining you, and their perception of you is imprisoning you. And because it's imprisoning you, it's inhibiting you from becoming all that you can become. So you've got to start making that affirmation. I'm not going to allow what is normal, an average level of development for other people to dictate, to determine, or imprison me from becoming all that I can become. You got to say it. You got to say it. You got to say it until you are convicted inwardly and you start living it out with conviction. Because what you tell yourself over and over is what you train yourself to believe is true about you. And if you stop speaking to yourself and have left it for everybody else to do, you might be getting some false narratives. Okay? So what I want you to do is really ask yourself a few things. One of which is, when you are looking at your environment, I really want you to determine how it's impacting how you see yourself. Based on your environment, do you feel like the view of yourself has been limited? Based on your environment, just ask yourself these questions. Based on where I am, based on what is around me, do I feel like it's causing me to have a limited view of who I am? Because we ultimately do not believe that there is more until we've been exposed to more, right? I feel safe in saying that. When we've been exposed to people who are millionaires, wealthy, when we've been exposed to people who have really gone through the trenches and they've been able to pull themselves up, and we've been exposed to the possibility of something different than what's been put before us, when we get exposed to it, it's hard to unknow what you know, right? And so now you give your faith, your mind, and your heart something else to pursue because you didn't know was possible before. But it has everything to do with exposure. Exposure is contingent on environment. So if your environment is not exposing you to anything new, how do you expect to achieve it when you're not in an environment capable of it? Just a question. Another one. Who do you believe you could become if you were given the opportunity to sit in the room where it happens? If you were able to sit in the room where it happens. Did y'all see Hamilton? I love that song. Room where it happens. Okay, whatever. I really like that song. Anyway, if you were given the opportunity to sit at the table and you were able to glean knowledge, just to be an apprentice in the room, who do you think you could become if you were given the opportunity to become the understudy, to become the intern of the people who are in the room where it happens? Because see, a lot of us, we're on the other side, right? Like even professionally, we have so many creative ideas. And if we could just get in the room instead of having a spokesperson in the room, because let me tell you something, sidebar, sometimes the spokesperson is not who they say they are on the other side of the door. They are cunning and they are friendly and they are imposters. They are wolves in sheep's clothing, getting close to you to gain from you what they lack so that they can sit in the room where it happens and present themselves as a subject matter expert with your intellectual property. So, really, who could you become if you had a seat? If you were given a voice, if they heard it from you directly, who could you become? Because the enemy knows, which is why they do everything possible to keep you on the other side. Come on, where are my wanderers? Where are y'all? I know I'm talking to you. But it's hard to say that because you don't want the label sometimes, or the mislabel that happens sometimes with people who are traditionalists. I get it. It's cool. I'm in a season of life where, baby, I really don't care what you call me. I'm only answering to who I am. Do you hear what I'm saying? So you have the right to say whatever you want, honey, over there, but I'm only answering to the truth of who I am. And the truth of who I am is a wanderer. I will continue to be a person of constant evolution and growth because I respect the environments that I am placed in, and I am honest enough to leave when it's my time. And I'm okay with that. Everybody may not be. It's okay. I'm telling you, I've had the daggers. I've had people create false narratives because they don't know the truth, or they don't have the decency to ask the truth. They just create a narrative. I get it. That's fine. But let me tell you something. You get to live out your truth every single day. And so although they've created a narrative contrary to who you are as a wanderer, you get to show up in the truth of that person every single day. And I want you to not take any interaction lightly. I want you to not take any conversation lightly. I want you to not diminish or devalue any lesson that you learn about yourself or others while on your journey. Because that is all used to cultivate the truth of who you're becoming. Okay? And another question I want to ask you is, how have words spoken over you impacted your internal narrative? How? Think about it. Sometimes what we hear in our atmospheres has a way of altering internal narratives, good, bad, or indifferent. So what I want to know is how the words spoken to, over, or around you have impacted your internal narrative. And if that narrative has taken a downturn, if that narrative has caused you to deem yourself less than, inadequate, or not good enough, I need you to check out of that environment ASAP, because that environment was sent to kill, steal, and destroy. Because that environment is plucking away at your truth. That environment is trying its best to steal yet another worthy candidate of purpose. And you gotta turn off the noise. And you have to become unafraid of the silence that you're sometimes going to experience when you wonder. Some of us would rather the noise because at least something is happening. But all this noise that we have allowed to continue, we over there. We're not doing that no more. We are unsubscribing to the noise, okay? I'll embrace the silence before I continue to clap for the noise, okay? So I want you, just those are some of the things I need you to be thinking about while we're having this conversation. When you come back and listen to it again, like really ask yourself these questions, really. And don't be afraid of how you're going to answer. Because I really feel like a lot of times we don't ask ourselves the hard questions because we do not want to have to face what we may say. Because then we have to acknowledge it and we have to determine whether it's truth or a lie. But what you do not say, you just internalize. And then you are having some responses because for those who may or may not know, my degree is in psychology. So much of what happens in our subconscious guides us. And so what you don't address or what you just continue to grow and start to develop roots inside of your psyche, you may not understand why you're responding a certain way. You may not understand why you all of a sudden feel away. And it's because of that stuff that you allowed to fester and you left unchecked. So you got to be cognizant of that. Okay. So back to my wanderers and why we do it. Customarily, we wander from environments that we are once placed in because responses to our questions lack depth. Wanderers are not surface level individuals. You can't give me a high level synopsis. When I ask you a question, give me some depth. Let's have a dialogue about it. And most people who will only give you a surface level response is because they are unlearned and they're simply repeating what they've been told. And so wanderers deviate because your responses lack depth. I can tell that you are not a student of what you teach, number one, and you are not going to be one that can help cultivate my growth. So I'm out. Wanderers tend to wander because our environments lack innovation. Wanderers leave because we've completed and we've graduated from the establishment's course of study. Wanderers know that we are made for more and we will leave an environment that cannot substantiate our growth and development. Okay? A conscious wanderer, however, isn't critical of what they leave behind, but they are aware that what they are leaving no longer affirms who they've become. Okay? A wanderer we are integral, we are poised, we are professional. We do not have to tear down, nor do we have to devalue what we once subscribed to, because what we once subscribed to is a testament of who we are as well, right? What we allow ourselves to be a part of says a lot about ourselves. So to then speak negatively about things that we once subscribed to is to speak negatively about ourselves. So just be cognizant of that. A conscious wanderer is not unsubmitted. So this lesson is not an excuse to just be like, yo, I'm out here, I'm doing me, I hate it, I love it. No. You should still be submitted. And so if there has not been a clear indication of who or what you're supposed to be submitted to, should you leave the environment that you're in, hold on, because you might just be frustrated but frustration doesn't necessarily always mean that you are approved to leave. So let's be clear about that. And my husband said something to me shortly before we got online. I wanted to talk about it at the close of this because it really kind of just struck a chord with me, and it really did reaffirm a lot of what my recovery process has been, what my time away from our bi-weekly installments have been. And he said something to me and I was just like, wow, say it again. I probably am paraphrasing because I don't think he said it this exact way, but in short, he was saying when you are divinely positioned in God, i.e. connected to the proper source, you experience a free flow of God's favor. God cannot flow through what is not positioned in him. Okay. And so when you are properly positioned, all of what is destined for you flows uninhibitedly. If you think about it, if there's a break in a pipe, if there's a clog in the pipe, what's meant to flow through you lacks the ability to do so. And so if you are not experiencing a continual flow of God in your life, more than likely you are not properly connected. And you just got to take some time to admit that. Like, you got to submit to the fact that I'm out of alignment. And I really want to experience the totality of who you can be to me. But I know that I got to get some stuff right. So let me check my posture. Let me tell you guys something. And I just remembered this because I questioned, again, a lot about even going through with medical intervention, because I just was like, you're not going to be a woman of faith. You said to yourself. Now, I mean, I have said it across the mountains because I'm very private and I don't really normally talk about my stuff. Sorry. But like I had convinced myself, God is going to be the chief physician. He is going to be the miracle worker. I am not going to have medical intervention. God himself is going to do it for his name's sake. I mean, I said all the things that they train you to say, and it didn't produce fruit. It didn't. I had to submit and align myself with what God had already intended to be my experience so that I could experience the flow of healing. Let me tell y'all something. God set that thing up so good that I had to acknowledge that it was him. Okay. I had gone in. I'm going to give you the short version. I had to go to the hospital in October for excruciating pain. I ended up having to go back a few weeks later for an ultrasound. They reviewed the ultrasound. They gave me recommendations. The recommendations overwhelmed me. I put the paper down and I was like, I can't do this. I said, just let me get through X. I'll come back through it. I left the paper. I'm going to get through this story. I left the paper on my nightstand as a reminder of what they said I had to do. One of the things I was like, God, you can't do me like this, right? I left the paper as a reminder. All right. Okay. My husband said, I want you to take that off the nightstand. And I want you to reignite your faith. Because at that point, I had lost faith. And so I had to put it down. I put it in the drawer. I told the people I can't deal with it right now. Had ultrasounds at the top of December. I was supposed to call them people back like right after the ultrasound, right? Because y'all, we ain't talking about no minor, like I needed a couple stitches. Like this is legit major surgery. It could be life threatening. I was like, I'm not doing this. My mama getting ready to move. I want to celebrate my mama. I want to get through Christmas. I want to do what I want to do. So I'm not doing what they told me to do because I want to do what I want to do. Woo! Slow obedience, huh? Slow obedience is disobedience. Let's be clear. But I'm honest enough to tell my truth. So that's what I did, right? I was like, nope. Not calling these people. Finally called the people. And they said, ma'am, our records indicate that you were seen on December 4th and you're just now calling us. I said, yes. Next. She said, do you understand? Customarily, when you are referred to our office, it is because your condition is quite severe and needs immediate intervention. I said, And the lady was like, okay. And I think at that point, because I'm telling you, who you are in God speaks to people for you. You don't always have to say, I am X. Who you are in God speaks for you in simple conversation. Do you hear what I'm saying? So, it spoke to her. I think she could hear the concern and the hesitation in our communication. She said, listen, this doctor technically has no openings until March. But I'm going to double book her so that we can get your consultation on the books because of the state of your condition. I said, okay. I said, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. I go for my consultation. She's like, do you realize that you have X amount of fibroids, that you have this going on? I had 3 different things at play. And I said, And she was like, so is there a particular reason why you continue to be in pain? She was like, do you want me? But those who are close to me and are around me, they've seen me in pain. They watch me push through it. But they didn't really realize the weight of the pain that I was in. My doctor, before I even left off, she was like, do you want me to prescribe you some pain pills? Because I know you're in pain. I'm a medical doctor. I know you're in pain. I rejected the medication. She was looking at me like, why would you voluntarily submit yourself to this unnecessary pain when we can alleviate it by intervention? Whew, that was a word. That was a word. Write it down. Watch the replay. And I said, I'm gonna do what I've always done. I went back to the norm. I had my consultation with my physician. She said, okay, I need you to have another set of tests. It typically takes your particular carrier 24 to 48 hours to approve this request. So I don't foresee us being able to take care of this until next week. Cool. I thought I had some more time, y'all. Wrong again. I go out to schedule the appointment that I need to make in another department. My husband asked me to ask them about another location that they have. I asked them about the other location that they have, and they said, well, actually, there's an available appointment this afternoon. You've already been fasting, so just continue to fast, and we will see you at this afternoon at 3:00. Let me tell you, God took out every possible excuse that I could have rendered. It happened back to back to back to back to back. I go that afternoon, I have my next appointment. I get my results back. I have another follow-up appointment. They get my surgery on the books. I go in. I have my procedure. Let me tell you, Jesus is so awesome if you just let him be himself. I go in. I have my procedure. Now, to know me is to know Jamila is not staying in the hospital. I asked my doctor, hey, lady, can I go home today? Because I don't want to stay here with y'all. Like, thank you so much, but I don't want to be here. She was like, absolutely. If you check off these boxes, you can go home today. Thank you, Jesus. Can I tell y'all about my tribe that came through? I had people who did not know what was happening. Somebody asked me how I was doing, and I just said I was under the weather. I didn't tell them what was wrong with me. I had canned cookies, cards, food, flower arrangements, visits. I mean, my people showed up. When I was in one of my most vulnerable states, they showed up for me. I'm ever grateful for that. But one of the things about me is I am an over planner. So when you tell me I have to do something, I start looking at all the obligations. So I was looking at financial obligations. I'm a planner. To know me knows that I will give you a budget and it will be so strict and I'm not gonna play no games with you. Like, I'm a budgeter down to the cent. Okay. So I had this spreadsheet. And I told Jesus, I said, okay, you are saying that this is the way in which this is going to manifest. I need you to come through with the finances because this is expensive. Okay. But God always provides. When it's in his divine will, he always provides. Y'all, had spreadsheets set up, payment installments of what I was going to do because I had a goal of when I wanted all of this stuff to be paid. Y'all, I'm still a little like, how did that happen to me about one of these issues? Because I have been waiting on a a hospital bill. Like, waiting. I've been to this hospital before. I know how quickly they invoice. I'm waiting. I get a notice saying that my file has been updated. I'm going in. I'm looking for an invoice. I'm digging for an invoice. Call the lady. Is like, I can't find one. I don't know what's happening. It says there's supposed to be an invoice. I can't find one. They transfer me to the hospital directly. I'm on the phone with this lady who sounds like she could be my aunt. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she just had that auntie sound in her voice. And she is reviewing my account. She verifies all of my information. And she says, an appeal has been filed on your behalf. And I'm a G. I got to get through this. The patient responsibility for your case is $0. Excuse me, ma'am. I said, can you repeat yourself? And she said, there is a $0 patient responsibility. I said, Okay. Who appealed it? She said the hospital made an appeal on your behalf, and they're only accepting the insurance portion of your invoice. Excuse me. I had a moment. Woo! Woo! I am a G husband. Don't gonna come for me like that. I had a moment where I said, God is good, but I get to say that God is good to me. Okay? Let me tell you something. Major laparoscopic robotic surgeries are not cheap. Okay? That is a financial investment. Okay? But let me tell you, if I wasn't rightly positioned, then the favor of God and what he planned to do in the scenario wouldn't have been able to flow. Did I still have some financial obligations? Because I'm not that person that get on and be like, oh, Jesus paid it all. I ain't them. I'm going to tell you the truth. He took care of that. Were there still financial obligations that I had to meet? Yes. But what I truly believe is because I had been a good steward and I was timely and I was diligent in my financial obligations, he lessened the burden in this capacity. And for that, I give him praise. Okay? He will prove himself when you have been submitted and you have been diligent and you have stewarded well what he has entrusted you with. Woo! Y'all, I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole bunch more testimony that's gonna come after this. I already know that this is just the beginning of what's to come concerning me in this season, and I am ever grateful for it. And I am speaking that to be true for my wanderers as well. Because if I wouldn't have gotten out of environments that limited my perception of who God could be and who he could be for me, I wouldn't be experiencing the goodness of God in the land of the living that I'm experiencing today. Woo! Jesus showed up and showed out and said, this is my beloved daughter with whom I am well pleased. Let me take that load off your shoulders. Let me tell you something. He is faithful. And he does not come short of his word and every promise that he has spoken over your life. Whether it takes you off the beaten path or not is sure. And the thing that is so beautiful about him is that he truly watches over his word. And it is going to accomplish what it was sent to do, which is why he watches over it. Him watching over his word is him protecting and preserving it for its appointed time. And so if there are words that are still hanging over your life and you feel like, listen, I'm not on the path that I thought I was supposed to be on. I'm not subscribed to what they said I had to be subscribed to experience this level of an outcome. I don't care about any of that. If there is a word that he has pronounced over your life concerning your purpose and who you are ultimately to become, please understand that he is watching, protecting, and preserving that word for his appointed time. And when it manifests, you guys, you will experience him in a way that you have to acknowledge that it was God and God alone. Am I going to have scarring from my surgeries? Yes. I'm expected to have sensitivity to the points of incision for a year. Those are my reminders that you didn't get it the way in which you anticipated, but didn't God do it? And didn't he do more than you expected? Y'all, I could have legitimately had some serious health conditions if I hadn't let go of my ideology of how God had to do it. 10 fibroids? Are you serious? 10 fibroids? Y'all, that's nothing to play with. I was putting myself at risk because I was so fixated on what I wanted done and how I wanted it done that I could have done it at the expense of my life or the quality of my life. So I don't know what you need to let go of and what you are so fixated on in this season. But if it is not aligned with what he said is going to be for your life, when you let it go, I promise you, you won't lose nothing. I promise you, when you wander from that path, you're not going to lose nothing. You're going to gain everything that you were supposed to have in the first place, a higher level of clarity, peace, peace that surpasses all understanding, walking through the unknown with peace, walking through the unknown supported, walking through the unknown being developed, walking through the unknown getting rhema and not recycled theology. Woo! I gotta get off of here because I'm gonna feel myself start all the way back over. But oh my God, God is so good and He is so faithful. And when you get in the season where you get to see Him face to face, and it's not laced with that person's current season, because sometimes people are well intended, but it's hard to it's hard to give truth when what you're going through is overshadowing or clouding your perception. And they may be well intended and they may want to advise you, but if they're not advising you with a clear perspective, they are advising you incorrectly. And you got to know and be able to identify that, but you typically cannot unless you are brave enough to walk away and wander in the direction of your purpose. I'm so excited. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be on the brink of the final days of my first round of healing. I'm excited about what God is going to do in and through my life. I think that He is making me a better person so that I can be better for you. And for that, I'm ever grateful, because I don't take it lightly that you lend me your ear, that you subscribe to what is being said through me. And so I want to remain integral and submitted so that when I do speak, it's not from my own, but it's what's been deposited in me. And so for our journal prompt tonight, to those who have not been brave enough to wonder, or to those who feel that it's not in you to deviate from the preset path, typically it's because you subscribe to a lie. And so what I want you to do is, and a lie, you guys, is anything that isn't the truth. So just to be clear. So even if what they're saying about you is good, if it's not the truth, it's a lie. So yeah, there's that. So for your journal prompt, I want you to write this. I want you to say, answer this question. What is the biggest lie that you've stopped believing about your purpose? What's the biggest lie that you've stopped believing about your purpose? Wanderers typically unsubscribe from a lie, which is why they're no longer in the environment. They have unsubscribed to a miscommunication about their potential, or they have unsubscribed to the lie that this is as far as they can go. Whatever it is. So what I want to know is, what is the biggest lie that I've stopped believing about myself? And if you haven't stopped believing that lie, you're going to write this as if you have. You're going to write yourself a letter. And when you feel that lie presented itself as truth to you again, you get to go back and read the lie that you stopped believing about yourself. I have stopped believing. I'll be honest. Let me tell mine. I'll go first. I stopped believing that I am inadequate. I have stopped believing that where I've been is as far as I'm ever going to go. I have stopped believing that my words don't have purpose or power. I have stopped believing that that my period of effectiveness has expired. What are the lies that you've stopped believing about yourself? You've heard mine. Now I want you to journal about it. And then I want you to, after you have really been honest with yourself about the lie that you've stopped believing about yourself, I want you to write yourself a note about the truth that you've now subscribed to. And I want you to continue to wonder. And I want you to continue to be brave. I want you to continue to be innovators, because you are changing the world one encounter at a time. People who subscribe to status quo, they just maintain it. And those are sometimes you need maintainers. You do, because when something new is created, you got to have someone to maintain it. But if you are not a maintainer, but you are a wanderer, one who's been uniquely designed to create, implement, and develop the next thing, It's time for you. We have need of you. So many people are walking away from ideologies that lack depth, and that don't speak to where they are. And so those of you who know how to speak to that accurately with compassion and are learned, you are students of that. We need to hear from you. I am not a know-it-all, but that which I know I speak confidently about. And that has to be your conviction as well. I love you guys so much. Thank y'all for coming to hang out with me for the return of Thursday with Jamila. I am so over my time, to be expected. I hadn't talked to y'all in 6 weeks. Continue to pray for me. God is doing something in and through me and my family, and I'm excited about it. And I am going to remain submitted to the path that he has me on, so that I can continue to grow and develop and become who I need to be for those that he has called me to. I love you guys so very much. Have a great night. Bye.